All right, so I am actually here to talk to you about escalations. Ouch, I know, they can be scary, they can be daunting, they can be all of those things, but hopefully after this session you will walk away feeling very calm and relaxed because you'll know what to do. So not only will I talk about how to manage escalations, but actually how to turn them into opportunities. So actually before I go on, how many of you here are actively involved in an escalation or escalations? Wow, okay. So you'll want to pay attention. So as Omar mentioned, my name is Vidhu Sharma. I'm a senior CSM here at Totango. I've been with Totango for multiple years now. I work with many customers. I've highlighted some of the ones that are attending Summit here today. A little fun fact about myself, I'm a huge pro sports fan. I love the NFL, the NBA, and tennis. Go Rafa and Nadal. I'm still rooting for Serena to get her 24th. So there are kind of three things that I really want to cover with you guys that I want you guys to take away from this presentation, but just overall in terms of how you think about escalations, okay? So number one, we're going to talk through how to identify an escalation. Number two, we're going to talk about how to effectively manage escalations. And then number three, we're going to talk about, well, how can you uncover, create opportunities, not just along the way, but upon remediation of an escalation. Now, when you think about identifying potential escalations, this can become a tricky subject, right? There's so many things going on with the account. There's so many different signals, activities, all this. So how do you really know what to actually hone in on? And what are those key examples of situations that actually can transpire into a potential at-risk situation? So what we're looking at here are those examples. So very common examples of what can actually translate into a potential escalation for an account. Definitely not exhaustive, but very representative of very common examples. So let's take support tickets, for example. How many of you think that I'm leading this question and I'm probing this question very specifically here. How many think that support tickets, volume is actually part of that reason that an account might go into an escalated state? And it could be, right? But what we found that is not usually the case. What we found, it's actually the type of support ticket that's being submitted. So for example, a critical support ticket, right? A critical support ticket is submitted. What does that mean? That obviously means that there's some friction between your customer and the product or service that you're delivering. And so because of that, you either have a critical support ticket that's been open for too long or a critical support ticket that is continuing to kind of have a lot of back and forth. That is going to potentially lead to an escalation. Let's pick another example here. Let's talk about organizational changes. So you have this great relationship with your champion. The account's in good standing, everything's going well, you're happy, and all of a sudden, you find out that your champion is leaving the company, okay? The successor comes in, and you find out, oh, the successor's here, and guess what? They either are reevaluating your product or service, or let's just say that they have experience with the competition. So all of a sudden now, the complexion of the account changes, right? So all of a sudden, you went from, wow, this is one of my favorite accounts, everything's going awesome, to, uh-oh, we have a potential situation here, right? So this is where you can be proactive into really understanding and being astute when it comes to knowing that this could potentially lead into an at-risk situation. When you look at all of these potential identifiable opportunity or identifiable causes, the opportunity to take away from here is driving the internal awareness, right? In the situations where you can be proactive, really making sure that you are taking the right steps to drive that internal awareness, and then how to actually plan for and avoid these type of situations in the future. So now let's kind of talk through why is managing escalations important. So first and foremost, managing it's important to manage them because you want to be able to improve the client adoption and drive tighter engagement. You also internally want to make sure that you're empowering your CSMs to get the support they need and remove any barriers and obstacles along the way, right? by doing so, you can lead to positive outcomes, right? Such as expansion opportunities or retention. So you're improving the renewal rate. You're, again, driving that tighter relationship with the customer. But let's think about and pause for a second and think about what can happen if, say, an escalation is not managed effectively, right? So there are many implications for that. But one of the ones that I really wanted to highlight, because it's a very important part of the process for driving escalations, is how it can affect the morale of the team, right? So you're leading a team of CSMs, you have a very critical account in a very precarious situation, and all of a sudden that didn't go so well. So it leaves an impression with the team, right? And it does have a trickle-down effect with the morale of the team, and it's going to affect their confidence, and just the way that the process is being run is going to kind of have a long-term and downstream effect as well for future escalations. So the opportunity here is, number one, to improve the customer experience, to minimize the churn risk, and obviously try to improve the time to resolution. So the other thing that's important here is really trying to understand the core aspects to managing an escalation. So I listed 5 here. And I think these are very, very important. And what I'll do is I will actually walk you through how to leverage Totango Spark for each one of these. So I'm going to quickly go down the list, and then we're going to kind of look through how you can leverage Spark specifically for all of these things, okay? So number 1, you want to be able to have an early warning system, right? You need to be able to have a good proactive way of finding and being able to identify these potential reasons that these accounts can go into an escalated state. Number 2, you're going to want to have visibility into the status. Whether I'm the VP of CS or I'm a CSM, I want to make sure that I know exactly what is going on with all of my accounts, even though if I'm a CSM, I'm making these updates, but maybe I want to look at it at a holistic level. If I'm the VP of CS, I want that visibility into the status of my escalations at any point in time. Number 3, you want to have a well-defined process in place, right? Having a tight program is essential to this entire situation of these types of accounts that are in a very fragile situation. Number 4, you want to make sure you have very, very concise, specific goals around escalations. You want to have KPIs to be able to measure them. And then you want to be able to analyze. So it's really, really important to have data points that you can do further investigation into, kind of your starting off point to be able to do further analysis. Why? Because this is what's going to ultimately also help you improve the process, iterate, improve the experience, all of those things that are going to be positive outcomes from a situation that is occurring, such as an escalation. And then number 5, you want the ability to present to the leadership team, right? So I want to be able to make sure that I have all the information I need so that I can present to my leadership team in a concise and consumable fashion. So the opportunity here is to create a successful program and to mitigate future escalations. And again, let's now talk to how we can actually do that in Totango Spark. So earlier today, sorry, that screenshot looks a little funny. So earlier today, Ravi talked about success blocks, and who here actually is either new to success blocks or still is understanding what success blocks are? Okay, so let me give you a quick overview of success blocks. So success blocks are essentially a way to be able to organize information, set goals and KPIs around, say, key aspects of a customer journey, right? So think of onboarding, think of adoption. Escalation is actually a big part of that as well, right? So you want to make sure that you have specific goals, specific KPIs around escalation. So what you're looking at here is the escalation success block, and within that success block is the scorecard, which is housing the goals and KPIs. Now, the beautiful thing about this scorecard is that it actually addresses a lot of the core aspects of managing escalation. So here, it can be a resource as an early warning system. It's giving you visibility. It's the opportunity here to be able to analyze these data points and do further analysis, dig in further to any of these stats that you're looking at. And you can actually use this scorecard to present to your leadership team, okay? So let me actually go into the details of some of these KPIs. So one of the goals that we have set here, we have two goals, one of which being resolving quickly and effectively, which I didn't put the effectively there, but that's essentially what it's saying. Number two, you want to be able to mitigate escalations, all right? So let's look into some of these data points, some of these KPIs. So first thing I want to know is how many accounts are at risk, right? How many accounts are actually in this escalation status, if you will? We're showing here we have 35, okay? The second KPI is very disconcerting. Why? I'm able to set a graph to show me the actual trends of the escalations, right? So what I'm seeing here is that the number of escalations is actually going up. It shot up and then it's kind of progressively increasing, right? This is not good. If I'm a VP of CS, I want to look into that right away, right? This is an opportunity for me to dig further and understand why it is that this is happening. In addition to that, I'm going to want to know, so my team is in charge of churn, right? And so I'm going to want to know, of the accounts that are in escalation, how many are coming up for renewal, right? So you see here that there are 11 accounts that are in escalation whose renewal date is around the corner. And then to the right of that, you're looking at the associated ARR for that renewal. In addition to these top KPIs, the bottom ones are representing things like escalation status. So of the accounts in escalation, how many have we actually resolved? So I can, again, come in and see this information in real time. And then I want to understand the composition of the escalation. So the reason why the accounts are in escalation. Why is this important? Because if I can discern patterns, then I can go have those appropriate conversations internally. So for example, if I'm seeing that it's saying 67% are due to product, I probably want to have a conversation. I want to learn a little bit more about what those patterns are within product. And this is a great opportunity for me to open up a conversation with our product team to say, look, these accounts are going into escalation for this reason. Maybe we need to reevaluate what we're thinking about as we're iterating the product, right? And then we also want to look at total number of customers at risk, right? So I want to know of all the accounts that are in escalation, what is that against the total portfolio? One of the things that's actually that we can add to this, and again, this is an example that can definitely expand upon it, is the average time to escalation, right? So we want to set a target of 30 days. So what another KPI I can add here that is not up here is the average time that my escalations are taking, right? And I can set that target and say I want 30 days, and what is that average time? And then again, use the segment views to be able to understand why it's actually taking longer. Is there something else here that anybody else has used in their escalation process? Something that's missing? Who here actually has an escalation success block set up? Awesome. Well, we're going to be around. I think it's a great opportunity.
So there's homework,
Come
right?
find me. What's that? There's homework, yes.
Totango, so we know this.
And that's okay. Look, it's okay if you don't. The important thing to take away is that you can leverage it. We will have, obviously, the Meet the Experts booth. I think that you should come talk to any one of us. Come talk to me if you have a specific situation in mind. Maybe you don't want to bring it up in front of everybody right now, but definitely come talk to us about it. But I just wanted to get some insights because I know that there are different metrics that people are using, and these are very common ones, but there are definitely other things that can be added on here.
One of the things I want to mention, the walking.
It was.
Thanks. No? Okay. So one of the things I want to mention, I know if any one of you attended Revit sessions, that was an hour ago. One of the things we are going to be releasing really soon is a success block gallery. So instead of building everything from scratch, you'll actually be able to copy a success block with best practices that we've built and other customers built into your own escalation or other success blocks. So that's something we'll be able to share really soon.
I see some smiles. That's awesome. All right. So now let's take the KPIs, and one thing actually, I'll back up for a second there. What we're going to do now is actually leverage the data behind these KPIs. So we have all these beautiful KPIs here. I see these stats. Now I want to understand kind of the details behind them, okay? So the way to be able to do that, and one thing I do want to point out is you can actually click into the respective segments for the KPIs directly from here, so you don't have to go search for them. The other thing I actually wanted to mention is when you're looking at this scorecard, one of the new things that we've just recently released is the ability for toggling based on CSM. So if I'm a CSM going into a meeting, say a one-on-one meeting or even an escalation meeting, I can toggle this scorecard just to my account. So this is looking at the global view, but I'm actually able to toggle it to my view. Or if I'm a manager, I can toggle it to any CSM's view to just, again, look at their account specifically, okay? So let's dig into the segment. So if I were to click on this segment with the total number of accounts, this is what I would see. Totango has done actually a really good job and put in a lot of emphasis on making segments very versatile, right? So we have actually added different views to our segments. What you're looking at here is the list view. This list view is showing me all of the accounts that are in escalation, okay? In addition to that, it's showing me things like the risk reasons. So why are these accounts in escalation? What is the actual status? Status is something that my CSMs, if I'm, again, a VP of CS, they are updating on a regular basis. And with the process that I put in place, which I will get to in a little bit too. The other thing I can see here is the average number of, or it's not the average, sorry, the total number of days that the account is in escalation. Remember, our target is 30 days. So here I can always come in and see where the individual accounts are respective to how long they've been in escalation. So now let's say I'm running an escalation meeting, I have more granular visibility into these accounts, and I see an account here that I want to drill into further. I can simply click on that account, or I can go to the work view. So we're going to go to the work view here. The work view of a segment is essentially telling you the work that has been assigned, or the work that needs to be done for that particular account, okay? So I'm going to find, and I'm going to use line tech as an example. I want to know more of what's happening, actions around the line tech. I want to know what tasks have been created, what's been completed, and I want to pay attention to this account because maybe this is one that I know could really spiral out of control very quickly if we don't curtail it, okay? So I can look here that there was one task completed. I can see when it was completed, and I can see that there are 2 tasks coming up in the next 30 days. Line tech is in escalation because there is a product functionality gap. And I've noticed here that, you know what, I don't see a task actually assigned to anybody on the product the product team. I want to involve the product team now. I think that we're, as much as the CSM has been doing a great job in communicating, I want to now directly involve, let's say, our VP of product. One of the great things about the segment view here is you can actually take action right from here. So on the right-hand side, there's a button that says Take Action. I can add a touch point. I can add a task. So specifically for the VP of product, I can add a task right from here and let her know, please set up a call with the customer, his or her, or him or her. Please set up a call with the customer. Here is the issue. Let us know if you have any questions, whatever that might be. I can also run a success play. So this is another new feature that Totango released recently. And this is the ability to run a success play manually at any time. So up till now, success plays have been automated. They're trigger-based, right? Based on a certain activity or behavior. I don't need to wait for that anymore. I can actually run a success play, and I can set even a series of tasks. So if I want to say not just involve the VP of product, but I want to have an actual plan in place for this particular account's escalated state, I can do that. I can leverage a template. I can customize that template that I've already set up for escalation, and I can actually fire it off right then and there. So now let's dig into how to operationalize this escalation management, okay? So setting the right process, we talked about how important it is. And why is it important? Because I want to make sure that we leave no stone unturned. We want to make sure nobody's dropping the ball. As a CSM, it's important for me to know exactly what I need to do and what the escalation path is when it comes to my specific accounts. So success plays, SMART tasks, are a way to be able to do that. So one of the examples or some of the ways that we can do it is triggering a success play. So now we're talking about the automated. I just finished talking about manual, but this is the automated. So you can trigger it based on the risk reason, you can trigger it based on life cycle stage, and you can actually leverage success plays to also ensure that the right people are engaged, involved every step of the way. And you can build success plays upon success plays to be able to follow each other and cover all areas and make sure that all the gaps are addressed. Another recent functionality that Totango came out with was the ability for the administrator of the success play to mandate updating attributes, right? So if I'm setting up a success play, I can actually make it mandatory for my CSMs to update the risk reason, okay? This is really important because I want to make sure maybe they meant to do it, they forgot. Maybe, they updated and they realized they didn't update it to the correct, whatever it might be. Now I can make it mandatory, and it almost forces everybody to make sure that the updates that are in the system are truly reflective of what the latest activity is. So we've talked about how to be astute and identify the potential escalation, the indicators of potential escalations. We've talked about the importance of running a very tight program. And now we've talked also about kind of how to create opportunities along the way. So upon remediation of an escalation, now you can see if it's been effective, the time to resolution has been in line, the experience has been as optimal as possible, and you have this kind of positive outcome from that type of a situation, you have opportunities at the end as well, right? Number one, you have the opportunity to, again, surface internal improvement areas. So we talked about accounts being in escalation because of product functionality gaps. So now there's an opportunity for the product team to reevaluate, reassess, or actually look and factor in a lot of the feedback that they're receiving, right? Support, maybe they're related back to the support tickets. Why is it taking so long to solve and close out some of these support tickets? Maybe there's a pattern between the critical support tickets that are coming through. It's another opportunity for the teams, everybody to work together to be able to continue to improve and refine in their respective areas. Now you've taken a customer that was at risk and turned them into an advocate. If you've effectively managed an escalation and you're the CSM, you can even have this renewed credibility with your customer, right? They were experiencing friction. They had a difficult time. They were going through challenges. You made it high priority. You had such a great process in place that now at the end of it, they're excited, they're happy, everybody's beyond it, and you've kind of renewed that, not only that credibility, but it's actually going into the next bullet point as well, which is you've further developed that relationship, maybe solidified the bond even more, and now you have opportunity in the future to be able to work on other things that you want to prioritize. And then lastly, we talked about how morale can be impacted, and when you are managing an escalation effectively, that also boosts the morale internally as well, right? Everybody's come together. There was one very specific, unique goal that everybody was striving towards. We met it. Everybody's happy, and now we've worked together as a team, and it's created great synergy. So what I want to leave you with is the three things that we talked about, but really understanding that there are ways to be able to effectively identify reasons that an account can go into an escalated state. So we talked about, part of that early warning system, the remediation capabilities and so forth, and how important it is for the teams to know what to actually hone in on. We talked about how to manage an escalation, making sure that you have the right processes in place, making sure that you have the right framework in place, you leveraging the scorecard into Totango, leveraging the segment views, operationalizing it through success plays. All of that plays in, and all of that should help mitigate future escalations, but also improving the time to remediation or resolution. And then also how to create opportunities and capitalize. So identify, create opportunities, capitalize on those opportunities, not only along the way, but at the outcome of a successful resolution. So there you go. So now you can keep calm, no need to panic. And hopefully that was helpful. What questions do you guys have?
When you're dealing with escalations that are maybe feature-based or bug-based, does Totango, and I don't know this, but do you have a DevOps team that's specific developers for fixing the problem, or does that still sit with the developer team? And what does the escalation path look like from a CSM to a developer?
Yeah, so we actually have a pretty defined process internally. So what we do is we as the CSMs take the feedback that we're receiving from our customers. There's a form that we fill out. We submit that to product. Product then has a repository of all of that feedback, and then they assess kind of the feedback that they're receiving. So that's the general process. Within an escalated situation, what we do is we have a kind of a path forward to be able to give that feedback to product, knowing that this is an escalated type of situation, right? So we give that feedback directly to our VP of product, who then, and then we work out kind of a plan to how to actually remediate, or how can we address that situation. I don't know, Omer, if you want to speak to it a little bit more as well.
Yeah, well, as you're going to hear a lot of people say, customer success is a team sport. So the fact that you have an escalation doesn't mean that you are able to solve it by yourself. What we have is a tiger team. Really depends on the type of escalation, the type of customers, but on most of the type of escalations, we have a representative from a product team and from our engineering teams, sometimes for the sales team. So it depends on the type of escalation, and they are together in charge of making sure there's a plan to resolve the situation. Some company I've worked with have like a weekly or bi-monthly escalation meetings with representative from all those teams. Usually the best way to prepare them that is having a success block like that, sending information before so they'll know what they're getting into, and really managing the status of all those things. But definitely, I think one of the tasks of a good CS organization is the ability to present the status of the escalation, how many of them are product related, how many of them are technology related, how many of them are knowledge, maybe you need training, so there's a lot of reasons. And if you do see that there's quite a few of product, bug, feature, quality, definitely you need to double down on including people from product and engineering into that.
That's a good question. Any other questions? Anybody comfortable talking about their escalation that they're involved in?
I want to give you my 2 cents about escalation as a program. I think what we've learned is that the most successful customer success organizations are the one that can run multiple programs. You're going to hear me talk about tomorrow about how customer success is complex. And one of the reasons it is complex is that we need to have a lot of balls in the air, right? We need to do onboarding and adoption and renewal and expansion and escalation and advocacy. And the only way to be successful with that is really have a very tight program that runs each one of it. This was a good example of how to run a program for escalation, which without knowing all of you here, you are managing escalation, you have escalations. The only way to excel in that is really understand what are the goals. You are not going to win all the escalation. So I would definitely not put a goal of 50% or 90% win of all escalation. You're probably going to lose a lot of them. But if you're able to identify, is this number increasing or not? Are there specific areas, like you said, if we have a lot of escalations because of bugs, maybe we need to go back to engineering, stop development of new features, and invest the next 3 months in fixing things. This is what we expect from the customer success organization, the ability to explain what is the status, include the other people in the organization, and say, this is where I need help. And also ask for help, because you cannot solve all those things alone. It's rarely that a customer success organization is able to deal with escalation all across the board, because it usually came because of misexpectation in the sales process, or something is wrong in the product, or there's a feature missing, or training that you can solve, but you will need other people helping that as well. So really have a tight program in managing Start with the goals. What are your goals for escalation? What is the status? What are the reasons? Are we improving or not? And then, as Vidhu said, use those tools to really manage the day-to-day with escalation. If you're having a one-on-one with your team, or you have a team escalation meeting, really have a risk status. Why are there escalation? What is the reason? How much time they're in escalation? There's probably other that are relevant to you, but using Success Block, you have the way to really manage that successfully and become better in that. Any other questions?
Aaron Bowers. Aaron always has a question.
Okay, so since we know most of you, or almost all of you, do not have an escalation success block, I really recommend find your CSM, speak with them, have them help you build
Definitely.
the right escalation block. We have templates that are almost ready, and you probably need to fine tune it, but we found it very successful with those companies that are actually using that.
Okay.
Thank you very
All right.
much.
Thank you.